Hello and welcome. My name is B. Halligan and I am a priestess of Avalon and a priestess of Cerridwen here in Glastonbury, Avalon. And I have done a video about Cerridwen Revealed a couple of months back, probably almost 2 years back now. Life is very exciting in Avalon and life can be very interesting in Avalon. But today I'm sitting in the Cerridwen room, the room in Glastonbury's Goddess house that the Cerridwen crew created. There is a whole group of us who have trained as priestesses and priests of Cerridwen, and here we hold our space, we do our healing. This is our clubhouse, so to speak, and we call ourselves the kinship of Cerridwen. And when you look at some of the other videos that are coming forward in our channel, you will see some of the most beautiful people doing a very diverse amount of things that they're good at, things that they are shining at. And they are students and finished priestesses and priests of Cerridwen. And so just to give you a flavor of who we are and what we do in the world. So here in Avalon, we have a temple, the oldest reclaimed goddess temple in the UK. We started the temple over 20 years ago. It is officially our 20th year, but we were there before. Now, I wasn't there 20 years ago, obviously. I started here 10 years ago. And I'm very proud of the fact that I have been here a decade. And it wasn't an easy decade. There has been a lot of interesting reactions to what we do here. There are some real people that want us to go away, who want us to stop doing what we're doing. And they are not just from the Catholic Church or from the Christian Church or from any of the religions. It is actually people in the pagan community that think that we are some sort of fluffy bunny or we are some sort of, unimportant bunch of women. Well, to be quite honest, that might have been the case 20 years ago. Today, we are a mass of people who love this temple. If you look at our Facebook page, you see that we have over 16,000 people who follow us. And if you look at our website, you see a plethora of beautiful offerings from free ceremonies that we do on a seasonal basis, both online and in person, and courses and ceremonies, and whatever you want that is goddess related is something that we can make happen for you. And that is really from the moment that you conceive or are conceived. So some of us are fertility specialists, some of us are people who can help you with blessing way ceremonies, and we go all the way past death to the end when your soul will be traveling to the next place, if that's what you believe, and people are there here that can hold that too. We are basically an all service group of people. But here in the Cerridwen room in specific, we love, and I'm not allowed to say that too loud, we love the magic of it. Cerridwen is a witch. Cerridwen is a Suinuraig, a healing woman, a wise woman. She is the healer in the Wheel of Avalon, but she's also the spellcaster. The whole story of Cerridwen is about casting a spell and how drastically it can go wrong. So here is a slight proviso to what I'm going to say in this video. Be careful what you do, because magic is real and things can happen. So if you have not got the right intention and you're trying to do something that is not for the highest good, like Cerridwen, you will find yourself at the wrong end of fate, because there's always a reckoning. There's always a reckoning if you don't follow the rules of magic. But on the whole, what I wanted to talk to you about is all of the beauty that the goddess can bring into your life. I have a plethora of beautiful students. We are now in person and online, and the online is actually what makes my heart sing. It's an online interactive course. Now, there are a lot of online courses out there, and I get a lot of people saying to me, I'm so tired of online. But actually, I don't think that is the case for our course. We are a very tight-knit community, whether that's on the first spiral or the second spiral or beyond that. We're a very tight-knit community and we support each other. The last few days we have had evenings where priestesses have embodied. That means they have allowed the goddess to come into their body and speak her words through their mouth and do things with their hands that is from goddess. That sounds a little weird, doesn't it? If you don't know what embodiment means, in the old days they used to call it drawing down the moon or drawing down a goddess into your body. And Doreen Valiente, as you may be familiar, created the charge of the goddess. If the goddess wasn't coming through to a particular priestess or priest, then they would recite the charge of the goddess. Thankfully, in our case, that doesn't happen very often. The goddess is all too keen to come in and give her words of wisdom for individuals, but also for groups. And what I particularly like is our voice of the goddess. What we mean by that is you have 3 priestesses that are placed in different parts of a room, so they can't hear each other. They are getting ready for embodiment, and for us embodiment means that we put you in a slight trance and that you are getting out, your consciousness gets out the way and you allow the goddess to come in. It is a part of our training. It is not something you should try at home without any previous training, because you also have to get the goddess out of your body. And regardless of the deity, they really like being in somebody's body, and it can take on a form of possession. So please don't try this at home unless you have a trained priestess or trained Melissa with you. So then these 3 priestesses are asked the same questions, 3 questions. We all do everything in 3. And these questions are about the state of the world at this time and what will happen in the future. So for us, this is a very important service to the community and to the future of the world. And you would be amazed, unless you are one of us and you believe in that sort of thing, at the synchronicity. You would be amazed at the way that these messages are similar or they build on each other. Sometimes these messages can be quite scary. This isn't a good news Bible, because we all know, and we are already working with that, and we are already preparing for that. We all know that the next few years will be quite tough on all of us, and that the only way that we can survive and thrive in this particular country is by working together, and by working sacredly, and by being a part of the community. There is no point in pulling up the drawbridge and thinking, I'm all right, Jack. We saw that with COVID, regardless of who you were, regardless of how much money you had, regardless of how much knowledge you had. When the virus came for you, it came for you. When the virus came for one of your loved ones, it came for one of your loved ones. And nothing would help, especially not in the early days. I was one of the people who sat with people who were dying, or with families who had a person dying in hospital and who couldn't get there, couldn't speak to them personally, had to speak through a tablet, had to speak through a device and make their goodbyes. So there is, when illness comes, when poverty comes, when there is no buffer, it can get to you. So don't think, oh, here by the greater grace of God go I. Always be prepared to be in a community and be in unity. So these 3 priestesses then give their words of wisdom, as we call it. We call it the voice of the goddess. And when you look at what is being said, it gives very often very clear guidelines of what we need to do, what we as a community here in Avalon and as a wider world community need to do in order to help those who are vulnerable, who cannot help themselves. And our trainings are all about being out in the world as a priestess in service to the community. Now, we see lots and lots of new courses coming up, and you can be a priestess of this and a priestess of that. I'm not allowed to name names, otherwise I get shot down by... But, you know, you can be a priestess in 6 weeks, no problem at all. You can call yourself a priestess without any training whatsoever. That's okay too. But the question I want to always ask you is, what are you doing with that? Is it just a vanity title? Is it just you know, look at me, I am so special? Or are you actually rolling up your sleeves? And I always see Cerridwen as rolling up her sleeves and saying, what comes next? What needs doing next? And it's interesting that for me, Cerridwen is very much a real person. She is a real person. And that means to me that she is a mother. She is a mother of 3 magical children. Now, people have been spending an enormous amount of energy on who is right. Are Cerridwen and Avak the twins? Who came first? What, you know, what about Taliesin? I have my views on that. And I allow all of the students and all of the priestesses and priests and everyone who works in the world with Cerridwen to have their own opinion about the story. The story is so rich. There is so much in it. And one of the things that we do on the trainings is expansion. I ask the people who are on the training to write Cerridwen's story, to write Avakthe's story, to write the story of all the participants in that. Because we don't know enough. There is only, you know, an A4 size page of writing about this story, and yet it is so rich and so beautiful because Cerridwen is totally present right here, right now. And if she hadn't been there for me during COVID, I don't know that I would have survived. I had her on my side when we were locked down and families were at each other's throats, and I'm not saying that mine are walking on water yet, but the fear places, she kept me sane. And she was the one that encouraged me to do these live streams, to talk about her, to sing to people. If you are a fan of the Glastonbury Goddess Temple, you will have seen me during the first year of lockdown singing my heart out on a weekly basis and bringing back songs that I learned when I was a very young pagan, some 30 years ago. And I collected these songs and I sang them to you because I want new generations of pagans and of goddess-loving people and whoever to go out and sing these songs. Because when we sing together as a world, you know, you've all watched Band-Aid. If you didn't, you're too young to remember. Check it out on YouTube. But for me, it is I'm sitting in the heart chakra, in the brow chakra of Avalon. And here is my space, my place. Blessed be.